Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you have been following this live stream, if you've been following my lives, I've been talking about the United States takeover of the United Kingdom. More information's come out about this. More information's making this an absolute inevitability. But before we get to that place, I do believe we're going to be into an absolute crisis phase. So I'm just going to jump onto this, guys, and then I will jump over to the chat. As normal, we're triple streaming. We're on YouTube, we're on TikTok, and we are on X. For you guys on TikTok, I will close you guys down a little bit early, and then I will just be streaming on YouTube and X. So good evening, everybody. That's what we're talking about. The United States inevitable takeover of the United Kingdom. It's coming, ladies and gentlemen. It's here. And you know why? Well, I'm about to tell you. In fact, let me put the chat on. Sorry, I just realized that. Sorry, let me put the chat on. So unless people have been living in caves, you can't help but see, look what's happening to Western civilization. Well, buckle up, buttercup, because something absolutely seismic just happened across the Atlantic over the little pond, and it's coming straight for Keir Starmer's doorstep. It is, guys. It's coming straight for Keir Starmer's doorstep. Now, you may have missed this, but don't worry, I didn't miss it. I got this, and I understood exactly every word that was said. Now, you might have missed this among the usual Westminster waffle and, the pomp, the pageantry, Keir Starmer falling over. But the new United States Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has just dropped an absolute diplomatic bombshell. The official position, guys, listen, you may want to sit down for this, okay? The official position now of the United States is this. This is the official position now of the most powerful country in the world. Uncontrolled mass migration is an existential threat to Western civilization itself. Read that again, guys, okay? Existential threat, Western civilization. This is not, it's not some... This isn't some fringe politician who's tweeting this, or one, or one of Donald Trump's BBC stitchers. This is the United States Department of State, the most powerful diplomatic machine on earth, and they just put that in writing. And guess whose government is on the top of that notice list? Yes, the United Kingdom, ours, the Kingdom of Great Britain and all their heirs and successors. For the first time in modern history, Washington is openly preparing to scrutinize, call out, and hold accountable Western leaders, Western governments that are enabling migrant crime, two-tier policing, and policies that put illegal migrants above their own citizens. Remember, guys, look, I'm not making this up. I'm not making it up when the government of the United Kingdom said that the rights of asylum seekers trump the people of this country. I didn't make that up. That's not some far right streamer screaming about things. It's not Nick Fuentes. That's the person I was thinking of. This is what our own government in the United Kingdom said. All right, they said that the rights of asylum seekers trump the people of this country. So it turns out people are looking and thinking, this can't be right. This can't be right. And on top of that list, ladies and gentlemen, is the United Kingdom. Now, let that sink in for a moment, guys. Okay, the Western, mass uncontrolled migration is an existential threat to Western civilization itself. This is what the Americans are saying now. And I am going to go into subversion a little bit here, guys. I am. And, I may even talk about the moon landing as well. that these are things I've been talking about for such a long time. And, all the information's out there. It's readily available. And you can see the United States posturing themselves now for an absolute takeover. So the country that gave the world the Magna Carta stood alone in 1940 and invented the concept of parliamentary democracy is now officially in America's crosshairs for sacrificing its own people on the altar of open borders and diversity. So let me tell you exactly what this means for Keir Starmer and his, and his collapsing Labour government. I don't think I'm being mean by saying that the Labour government is in absolute free fall. I don't think I'm being mean by saying that. I think everybody understands that if there was an election tomorrow, we'll come on to the elections afterwards. So, number one, London is now on Washington's radar, not in a good way. The United States embassies are reportedly being directed to start detailing on governments that. So right now in the United Kingdom, the US embassy will be reporting on the government downplaying or covering up migrant-related crime, silencing legitimate public concerns and smearing it as far right, operate preferential systems for new arrivals while British pensioners have to choose between heating and eating, continue to ignore the grooming gang scandals that's destroyed. I don't even know how many lives it's destroyed, guys. I would say it's destroyed millions of lives. And refuse to deport foreign criminals such as murderers, terrorists, and rapists. Ring any bells? Does that ring any bells to anybody, guys? Because that sounds suspiciously like the last 15, 20, maybe even 25 years of British political life and British life in general. Number two, Keir Starmer's open borders fantasy just became diplomatic kryptonite. He can't keep pretending that putting illegal migrants up in 4-star hotels while British veterans sleep rough is normal. When you're on X and you spend more time looking at these videos. There was a guy, I think it was in Skegness. And he's going around in Skegness and he's giving people fish and chips. And it's phenomenal how many people we have homeless in the United Kingdom. And I'm going to try and be as impartial as I can on this live stream, guys. Keir Starmer can't keep pretending that the small boats crisis is just a challenging issue. It's just a challenging issue instead of an organized invasion. He can't keep pretending two-tier policing is a conspiracy. Because we've all seen it with our own eyes. And then the example, the example I like to give, yes, we've got Lucy Conley, we've got Peter Lynch. The example I like to give is a man, I think he got 20 months in jail for shouting at a dog. I'm not making that up, guys. I promise you, I'm not making that up. And that we have people who abuse children who never see jail time. We have people who say they're going to do something like that to people's throats and get rid of them. They don't do jail time. We have the two gentlemen in Manchester who had fisticuffs with the police officers. They've not done jail. They're not in jail. So, it's very difficult to say that two-tier policing is not a thing. And America just called it what it is, a national security emergency threatening the entire West. Number three, the pressure on the United Kingdom government is about to become unbearable. Absolutely unbearable, guys. Can you imagine Donald Trump calling out Keir Starmer, hey, Keir, and doing one of those, ambushes. And he says, hey, Rubio, bring that TV out here. Bring that TV out here. And then they show him like a video of something or pictures or accounts or, and ask him what he thinks about that. It's coming, guys. It really is coming. When US diplomats start filing official reports about what I said earlier, two-tier policing, grooming gangs, migrant crime, silencing legitimate public concerns and labeling it as far right, i.e. Epping, when the US diplomats start filing official reports like this, it's going to be very difficult for the government to, to understand. It's going to be very difficult for the government to squirm out of it. When they're talking about how the trafficking networks operating across the channel, when they're talking about NGOs acting as people smuggling concierge services, failed deportations of dangerous offenders because of human rights. Keir Starmer really is not going to be able to hide behind the BBC's talking points anymore. He's not going to be able to say, the usual lines: compassion, diversity is our strength, we are a nation of immigrants. What was the other one? We're a tolerant nation. These acts are designed to tear us apart. The lines. The lines, though, those lines sound very hollow, ladies and gentlemen, and they're going to sound even hollower when they are, when David Lammy and Keir Starmer, they're all going up there and giving their speeches, and the Americans have got literal documentation and actual reports written about this. Those words are just going to be absolutely as hollow as I feel those words are now. Number 4, and here's the killer, guys. Okay. Labour's entire globalist migration project just got exposed in the harsh light of day. For years, they've been they've told us Britain's problems are unique and we're just a little island with bad weather and worse politicians. That if we could only be a bit more European, everything would be fine. Well, it turns out Washington has just confirmed what millions of us already knew. This is a coordinated Western-wide breakdown, and the governments enabling it are now on notice. Keir Starmer can Keir Starmer can dodge Beth Rigby on Sky News. He can dodge people on GB News. He can refuse to speak to people. He can send out his minions to brief against far-right extremism. He can do that weird robot stare when people are asking him questions. He can do his little fall over, but he cannot dodge the United States, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody can. They're too big. They're too powerful. So when your most important ally, the nation that's underwritten British security for 80 years, turned around and says your signature policy agenda is helping to destroy Western civilization. Keir Starmer, mate, you're in big, big trouble. You're in big trouble. Move it on the double. And I'm talking about big, deep, career-ending, government toppling, United States takeover trouble. That's where we are right now, guys. That is absolutely where we are. And we are seeing this direct effort and this move forwards of the United States now to position themselves to take over the United Kingdom. That is absolutely happening 100%. Right, let me jump over here, guys, and get some of the questions on the chat. X82 is saying when Starmer reckons he will be in charge until 2034, there's more chance of little Sadiq joining Reform. I don't think we're going to get that far, guys. I really don't. I don't think we're going to get that far. I think we're going to be... So, you know what? I'm going to try and run through this really quickly. So I talk about subversion, and I did a standalone video about it. It was about an hour long. It's quite didactic, pretty boring, but we are heavily subverted right now as a country. So the process of subversion is to take over a country. Now, the United States, not the USSR, United States of Soviet Russia, the USSR. The USSR were fantastic at this back in the 60s, 70s. And they've got a really simple 4-step process. Now, if anybody's ever seen any Yuri Bezmenov's videos, he explains this fantastically. A couple of live streams ago, he's very charismatic. A couple of live streams ago, I shared some of his videos, but I just want to run this down real quick for you guys, okay? So there are four main phases in ideological subversion. There's the demoralization phase. So for this step, it normally takes about 15 to 20 years. Now, I know that sounds like a long time, but when you think the first prime minister that Vladimir Putin shook hands with was Tony Blair, you now start to see these timelines in a new aspect. But this is I guess this is like the minimum amount of time it takes to educate a generation. Helping along the way are the media and the teachers who have become systematically or consciously or unconsciously to theoretical causes of the subverting nation, i.e. whatever that subverting nation is. Then you come on to your destabilization phase, which is what we're in right now, guys. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are being destabilized and things are ratcheting up. So the destabilization phase only works if the target nation has been demoralized, which we absolutely have been demoralized, like 1,000,000%. We have been demoralized. You can go and speak to people in universities, and they will say, "Oh, I'm not proud to be British. Oh, I don't, even now, we are being demoralized. Like, I want to leave the United Kingdom. I do, guys, but where do you go? I can't go to Antarctica yet." So we know that we are already demoralized. We are being destabilized. So this is like maybe a 5-year period. Again, these time frames can be extended. And I would say the demoralization of the United Kingdom was probably about 30 years. It took 30 years to have a good demoralization of the United Kingdom. So destabilization phase, this minimum is like 5 years. And this is a period to change the target country's foreign relations, defense, and economy. Yep, those things are happening right now, ladies and gentlemen. And what you do as part of destabilization, you want to fund as many fringe groups as you can. So I don't know, Just Stop Oil, Extinction Rebellion, Black Lives Matter, Palestine Freedom Group, or whatever it's called. Any of these fringe groups, they've all got the placards and they're all printed and they've got funding and they're waving them and they've got their bum, 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 and they've got all their little chants. That's all part of destabilization. Then the next phase, which we are going to go into very soon, is the crisis phase. Now, on that crisis phase, that is just all out chaos. I'm talking civil war stuff. People are just terrified. People are afraid. People have got real fear. We were talking the other day. We gave the mathematics of this, and a low end estimates for a civil war in the United Kingdom would be 23,000 people dead per year. That's the numbers we came up, guys, and that is the low ball. That is the low ball. A civil war, historically, that will take between 1 to 4% of your population. That is a lot of people, ladies and gentlemen. That could be potentially in the millions. So you guys have got an understanding now of what is coming. And then after the crisis phase, that's when the people are just screaming out, "Somebody save me, somebody save me. Anybody, we're paying migrants to stop committing crime and they just keep committing crime and they want more money, so we keep paying them, and oh, somebody save me." That's when big old DJT will say, "Yeah, we've had enough of this. We've had enough. We're going to send our Marines over. We're going to send the guys over. We're going to come. We're going to take control of your institutions. You guys are going to vote. Do you want to be part of the United States? Have a constitution, or do you want more of this craziness?" And people will vote for it. And that's what's coming, guys. That is what's absolutely coming. But yeah. We've got to talk about subversion because these things go hand in hand. Millie Mono is saying, "Goes looking for my suitcase and cowboy boots." Oh, right. Okay, right. Of the United States takeover. Paul Lloyd is saying, "It's about time someone stepped in." It is, and this is what I've been talking about for such a long time. I've been talking about this for such a long time about a United States takeover, but to get there, things are going to get a lot worse, guys. Things are going to get an absolute lot worse. Cheryl Heppelstone is saying, "Good. It's freezing here in Barnsley." So Cheryl's in Barnsley. Don't give your address away, Cheryl. But Cheryl's in Barnsley, and she's saying she's very cold. So yeah, it is pretty cold today. Amir the Cricket is saying, to tell you you don't understand what's coming. Yeah, no, you are absolutely right. People have no idea what's coming unless you've lived through these things, and I mean really, really lived through them. Like most people think of a war and conflict as something that you see on the TV and you think, oh, that's dangerous. Can you imagine marauding gangs with, sharp implements cruising up your streets, taking whatever they wanted, smashing into people's houses? Because when we hit that lawlessness, and we will hit it, guys, there is no way around it now. We will hit it. Look what's happening in the United States. The United States may hit this before us. And people will understand very soon that the police are not coming to help them. The police are outnumbered. How do I say this? You know what? I'm going to try and keep as objective as I can be today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to try and keep as objective as I can be. So just as a quick plug, guys, if you've not done so already, please like, comment, subscribe, share, bell notification, whatever platform you're watching on, please hit those buttons. If you're watching on YouTube, it's down there somewhere. You guys over there on TikTok, I think the buttons are like up at the side somewhere. And if you guys are watching on X as well, the buttons are up there. We are talking about a United States takeover of the United Kingdom, guys. Civil war is inevitable at this point. The numbers have built up phenomenally. The United States, Marco Rubio's come out and he said, excuse me, he said, and I quote, it's the official position of the United States government that uncontrolled mass migration is an existential threat to Western civilization itself. So this is all leading towards that US takeover. I can remember when I did a video back in, I think it was November 23, and there was a law passed in the United States, and it was just so out. I was like, oh, right, okay, well, I can see what's happening there. And all these things that are happening now, nothing's hidden anymore. All the information about what's coming is out there, and it's readily available. Carol Brown is saying, come in my door, few gifts waiting for you. Not going down without taking one with me. Miss Chloe Celeste is saying, we'll be able to claim asylum in the USA, hopefully. You see, there's a lot of things happening in the United States as well, and I think the United States are having their own problems. Don Ronnie is saying, I can't believe what's happened already. What will it take? Things are going to get a lot worse, guys. I promise things will get a lot worse. And I don't mean to say that as the harbinger of doom. I mean to say that as someone who's looked at the numbers, who's looked at the figures, who's looked at the policies, and who is, I've got two eyes in front of me. I was in, I went to, what was it? I think it's not Morrison's, Asda. I went to Asda a couple of days ago and to get the two pizzas for $5. And Morrison's used to do them, but they put their prices up, so I don't go there anymore. So I went to get 2 pizzas for $5, and there was 2 homeless people just, outside. And I was like, and it really is starting to grate on me. It's really starting to grate on me. And I'm seeing videos of homeless people in the cold of night, and it's fun. It's fantastically. It's just fun. I don't mean like I'm not celebrating it. I'm just saying what's happened to the United Kingdom in the space of like a couple of years is phenomenal. I think phenomenal is a better word. It's phenomenally. And if you think things are going to get any better, they're not. They're not going to get better, guys. They're really not going to get better. Miss Chloe Celeste is saying, Keith's alleged arsonist trial, April. Will there be a media blackout? I don't know what that means, Miss Chloe Celeste. I don't know what that means. Chloe Celeste, if you could give me more context on that. Kirsty Taylor is saying the gangs are already running the streets with sharp, pointy things, doing whatever they want. taking whatever they want from shops and from women. If you guys can read between the lines, while I'm still streaming on TikTok. It's happening daily in the cities. It is, Kirsty. It is. It really is. But, you know, people need to understand what's coming and how things are going to get a lot worse. Yeah, I think Amir the Cricket, I think this needs to go on a T-shirt. Things will get better after it will be, things will get better after it will be worst. So it's going to get worse, but at some point it will get better. And people write off the, people write off this, people write off this younger generation, and people write off Gen Z, but Gen Z or whatever they're called. I don't write them off at all, guys. I do not write Gen Z off at all. I think they're going to be monsters. Carol Brown is saying, I fear what will happen to all the children when we aren't around to protect them. Right, let me just, hang on, guys. Let me click some buttons on the screen. Because I do want to touch on what's been happening in Ukraine as well. Right, okay. So there's been no real update. So this peace deal, or this, this plan to end the war in Ukraine. First of all, it's not gonna work. Not in a million years. Even if Zelensky now, like for example, let's just say Zelensky turns up and he says, right, everybody, we are going to close this down now. I've signed this document. The people who are still fighting, they're not going to take those orders. So, like, what do you do? Literally, what do you do? If you're Zelensky and you give the order to stop fighting and the guys keep fighting on, what do you do? Literally, what do you do? Do you smack the bums? Do you send in another military unit to fight with them? Like, it's bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit, guys. It's never going to happen. Even if that paperwork does get signed, and don't forget, I was out there in 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, maybe 19. And I witnessed the Minsk and the Minsk II agreements. There was never a ceasefire. Yeah, there were pieces of paper that were said there was a ceasefire, but if you was out there at night, boom, 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 ba, 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 boom, boom, it never stopped. So even if the 28 peace plan is accepted and they all click on the buttons, it's never going to happen. Right, I am going to keep going through this trope, guys, okay? Because the main crux of this live stream, United States will take over the United Kingdom. And here on the streets in the United Kingdom, civil war is... I don't know how to use the... I don't know what other word to use other than inevitable. I really don't know what other word we can use other than, inevitability. Silly is saying, hopefully it might remind you people how valuable to you, what is valuable to you as British unite around it. I do think people have lost that, and it's all part of destabilization. Millie Mono is saying, Dutch news, drones at the Weigel NATO base in Eindhoven, airport closed due to drones. Right, let me get on this. I'm very, because I've got my little prop. I've got my little prop here. I've got my little prop. So we've got lots of different types of drones, guys. We've got like this type here, like this one, little quadcopter with a camera. That's a drone. You've got this here, like I think that's an X8 Skywalker. You've got these fixed wing drones, and then you've got like these huge things. So when people talk about drones, it could be a whole host of things, and then you've obviously got every flavor in between. But let's have a look at this. So drones spotted near Dutch military base. Unidentified drones have been observed hovering over. Okay, so they were. So it was these ones. Unidentified drones have been observed. In fact, let's share this. Let me share this with you guys. Unidentified drones have been observed hovering over a military base used by NATO in the Netherlands. The Dutch Defense Ministry has said. So because it's hovering, it's going to be one of those with the propellers on, and I'm going to assume it's like a civilian one. It said military personnel deployed weapons to try and take down the drones spotted near Volkel Air Base, north of Eindhoven, between 7 and 1900, which is 7, 1900 and 2100 local time. The Defense Ministry said the devices departed and were never recovered. You see, this is one of the things that when you talk about a civil war and a civil conflict and asymmetric warfare, those people operating those drones, that could have just been a couple of criminal gangs, and you say, right, you two, come here, I'll give you $1,000 each. Go and fly drones over that base, and it may be part of a deception operation because they may want people looking at those drones in the sky while they do something else in the back door. Equally, they may want footage of that base, and then what they can do is they can find criminal gangs in that country. We've got plenty of criminals in our country, ladies and gentlemen. You find criminal gangs in that target country, and you just pay them to do stuff. You say, right, fly that drone over there, and then send me the footage, and I'll give you X amount of money or whatever. And Don Ronnie is saying Keir Starmer says he will be the Prime Minister for the next 10 years. I don't think he's going to resign. Absolutely not. I don't think he will resign at all. He's been I've done this before. I'll just give you this headline. Let me show you this headline. Just let me share this headline with you guys, okay? So when we talk about Keir Starmer, when I talk about subversion, when I talk about how you, I'll just share this with you. So there he is. Look, how a young Keir Starmer ended up in... Sorry about the ads, guys. Right, how a young Keir Starmer ended up in a communist spy files after joining Czechoslovakian workers' camp during the Cold War. So there he is, look, Keir Starmer. He has been identified, if you read the article, he's been identified as a person of interest for further exploitation. So, it's very difficult to say that Keir Starmer doesn't have these links back to at least back to organizations that may want to subvert a British Prime Minister. I mean, it's quite useful to have a Prime Minister in your back pocket, especially when you look at the phases and the parts of subversion. A lot of people don't even know they're subverted. Like university students, for example. My dad was talking to me about this earlier, actually. So I had to close the live stream down early because I had to go and pick a carpet up because we was fitting a carpet. We was then waiting for an electrician to come. The electrician said he'd be here at 11. Then he was going to be here at 12. Then he was going to be here at 12:30. And then he said he's going to be there at 2. And he turned up at 2:26. Anyway, so my dad was telling me about one of his... I can't remember who it was. I think it's his next door neighbor. She's just come back from university and she's been totally subverted. She's totally woke-hearted. She's a woke-tard. And my dad says, I can't believe I remember speaking to her last year or whatever it was. And now she's been to, I can't remember when it was, but she's been at university now, I think since September. It may have been, it doesn't matter. But He's saying she has just totally changed and she doesn't sound like the same person. She has got all this woke liberal ideology, and this is part and parcel of subversion. The beauty about subverting people is once you start it, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your mate that called you gammon, I reckon it's young Starmer that looks more like a gammon. Band again is saying notifications don't work. I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know how the notifications work, guys. Guys, are you getting notifications when I come on? I did come on a little bit late today. Right, okay, right. Sorry, Miss. So Miss Chloe Celeste is saying the trial of the alleged arsonist. Yeah. So there wasn't it? I think it was. Was it 3 or 2 Ukrainian models, boys, like male models, that decided to burn down Keir Starmer's house or something? Am I right? Or was one like Bulgarian or something? Mickey Ocean is saying, I'm not woke, but still broke. Band again is saying, liberal ideology says democracy must not come before liberal goals and policies. It is bonkers, guys. It is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Miss Chloe is saying, yes, Ukrainian, but all very murky. And, one of the things I didn't realize that you could have here in the United Kingdom was go on. What's the thing that you do when the media are not allowed to talk about it? The super injunction. So I didn't even know that these super injunctions were a thing. And when I found out about these super injunctions, like my first thoughts were, how many more of these super injunctions are there? Like, how many more? Like, and this was only brought to my attention when you guys actually, like, you guys were right and I was wrong. I'll be big enough to admit it. You guys were saying to me, Sean, are the government flying in foreign soldiers and putting them in hotels secretly? I was like, no, that's too far-fetched, guys. People would know that it would get out. Somebody with camera phones and somebody would see that. Well, it turns out, yeah, you guys were right. I'll hold my hands up to that one, guys. You guys were right. So then I start to think, okay, right, what else? All these other little things that people are talking about, and it's once you start you've got to draw the line somewhere. You've got to draw the line somewhere. But what I'm getting at with these super injunctions is we don't know. The thing about a super injunction is we're not you're not even allowed to say that you know about something. So it's just gone. It's just finished. You're not allowed to say anything. So how many more of these super injunctions are there? Literally, how many more are there? Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about the United States takeover of the United Kingdom. Civil war inevitable. I'm going to go through my opening monologue again. I'll try and get through this as quickly as possible because I know there's people joining for the first time and some people may not have caught it all. But right now, the United States have just put the United Kingdom on notice. Absolutely, guys. Okay, so in case you missed it, amid all the normal waffle, the United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio has just dropped an absolute bombshell. It's now the official policy of the United States government that uncontrolled mass migration is an existential threat to Western civilization itself. Just, think about that for a moment, guys. Think about that. The most powerful country in the world, they're saying, look, this mass migration, it's it's a threat to, it's a threat to Western civilization. So what this means for Keir Starmer and like the government that's already in free fall is London's basically on Washington's radar now. The US embassies, as I understand it, the US embassies are being told, are being directed to start detailing and reporting on the United Kingdom and give them reports that are downplaying or covering up migrant-related crime, silencing legitimate public concerns and smear it as far right, i.e. the Epping Bell Hotel protests, operating preferential systems for new arrivals while British pensioners choosing heating or eating, continue to ignoring grooming gang scandals that have absolutely destroyed, I would say the grooming gang scandal has destroyed millions of lives in the United Kingdom, millions. Because you don't just, it's not just the girls and the boys, you know, it's the families. It's the wider reaching. I mean, how many of these people do you think of? In fact, right, ladies and gentlemen, you guys on YouTube, you guys on TikTok, I am going to close. Do you know what time I'm going to close you down? I'm going to, right, guys, you guys on TikTok, I'm going to close you guys down in about 3 minutes, okay? If you want to jump over to YouTube, I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube and I'm the Real Raven 1 on X. So if you want to jump over and continue this live stream, that's fine. You know what? It's not fine. I would love to see you over there. I am going to try and give a little bit of a revamp of these live streams. I think I might start doing them in the house because it's absolutely freezing out here. But I will be closing you guys down on TikTok very shortly. So the United States basically have been I've told their embassies, the embassy in the United Kingdom, to start, you know, writing reports on this stuff, you know, covering up migrant crime, silencing legitimate concerns, preferential systems for new arrivals, shall we say, ignoring certain gangs and refusing to deport foreign criminals. Now, of course, you know, these things have all been happening in the United Kingdom massively. If you live in the United Kingdom like I do, you guys know what this is. And America called it what it is. You know, the Americans just called it a national security emergency threatening the entire West, the entirety of Western civilization. So when these diplomats, now you can imagine the scene, right? You know how Zelensky was ambushed in the Oval Office or wherever it was, and they was asking him, you know, oh, what's that other guy, that South African guy? Is he South African? He's not South. You guys know what I'm talking about. Whether there was the African leader and he says, what's happening? Is there a white genocide in your country? And he's saying, no, no, no. And then they showed him the videos. Can you imagine Keir Starmer sitting down and Donald Trump saying, hey, what's going on with this? And, you know, Keir Starmer giving some sort of waffling answer. And then Donald Trump brings out the TV. He's going, hey, JD, go bring the TV. He's like, okay, yes, sir, Mr. President. And then he pulls out the TV or something, and they've got like all these files that the US diplomats, that the US embassy have, you know, put together with, you know, media reports and open source media, individual interviews, because I do think that's happening, guys. Remember, it's all part of subversion. It's all heading towards this takeover of the United Kingdom, because at some point, Keir Starmer's not going to be able to hide behind his usual, you know, his usual rhetoric of, what is it? We're a tolerant country. We will not be divided. We're compassion. Diversity is our strength. We're a nation of immigrants. You can't keep hiding behind that, because those words just keep sounding more and more hollow. You know, for years, you know, we've been told that it's, you know, that Britain's problems are unique, that we're just a little island and we have the, it turns out it's the whole West, guys. It turns out it's the whole West that this is happening to. So when your most important ally, the United States, you know, the nation that has underwritten your security for the last 80 years, turns around and says to you guys, us, Keir Starmer, the Labour government, yeah, what are you actually doing? We're going to start compiling some documents. This is deep. This is career ending. This is government ending. This is government toppling. This is government toppling stuff, guys. What is coming? And I've been saying it for a long time. The you know what? Can you guys remember? Can you guys remember when I first started talking about the United States takeover of the United Kingdom and people were going, no, never going to happen, never going to happen. I said, look, guys, you know, I genuinely see this direction. I see this direction of travel where the United Kingdom is taken over by the United States. And I was getting a lot of pushback. I was getting a lot of pushback. I was getting a lot of pushback. But you know what? If I'd have said that now, like now, you guys might think, yeah, that, you know what, Sean, that's, I think that could happen. But the reality is, guys, all right, these things have been set in motion for a long time. Oh, hang on. Ronnie is saying, watch Danny Tomo, Operation Overlord. The government says French government bringing illegals to the United Kingdom. Yeah, look, there's no other way that this can be happening without full government support. Absolutely full government support. Michael, hang on, where's Michael? Michael is saying no Yankees. No, Michael's saying no Yankees, no bloody Yankees going to rule over me. Michael, look, I would say that with the United States takeover of the United Kingdom, we would still have our independence. We would be a free state, like Texas, like Florida, you know, like California, where we make our own laws. We just come under that. United States framework. And if it gets me a constitution, if I can have a constitution that's written down on a piece of paper and I can say, right, this is what the government have to do, got it. And this is what I have to do, got it. Rather than slippery politicians squirming their way through with different interpretations of different laws, whatever suits them, whenever it suits them. It's farcical, guys. It's absolutely farcical. And Mickey Ocean is saying, I'd rather be a yank than a plank. I don't know where we're going here, guys, with planks and stuff. I don't know. I don't believe it. Says, if that's the case, I bear the right to protect myself properly. Yeah, look, guys, this is exactly what I'm talking about. In the United States, they have the Second Amendment, and people think that the Second Amendment is about guns. It's not. It is. It is about guns. Right. That's going to be a soundbite. People, you guys think that the Second Amendment in the United States is about guns. It's not about guns. It is about guns. So the Second Amendment in the United States is to have the ability to form a militia, and that militia can keep checks and balances for a tyrannical government. And I've been like harping on about this, and everybody's like, nobody knows what they're talking about. You know, we're all hoping that in the United Kingdom, we're going to pass this legislation and that legislation, and we're going to vote for reform. And that it's all bullshit, guys. The one thing we need to do in this country, and everything else gets sorted out, we need to have that legal framework to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. We need to be able to use force against the government, and we can't do that legally right now. We've got nothing to hide behind. So I'll give you the best example. And now I used to give a hypothetical example, but do you know what? There's a real world example. Yes, there is, good sirs. There is a real world example of how... there's a real world example of how we need a legal framework to oppose a tyrannical government. So Epping Bell Hotel, all right, doesn't matter that it was a migrant hotel. It could be anything. It could be a migrant hotel. It could be a pharmacy they were closing. It could be a hospital they were closing. It could be some houses they were building. It doesn't matter. But in this instance, it was a migrant hotel. So the Bell Hotel in Epping, the people of Epping wanted that hotel closed down. That's the reality. They wanted it closed down. So they went out, they peacefully protested. The local council, they voted unanimously. They said, yep, we're going to close this hotel down. We want to close that hotel down. The member of parliament, or like in the United, they're like their governor or like one of their senators or something, they agreed. They're like, yep, we want that hotel closing down. We're going to close that hotel down. The government said, no, staying open. And then that's it. It stays open. Where is the legal framework where those people at Epping can say, well, actually, this is against my constitutional rights. The police are no longer have authority here. I'm taking over. We're the people of Epping. We're going to close out the hotel down ourselves. That's what would happen. You know, that's what would happen if we had the framework to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government, which we do not. And all this flim-flammering, swizzly-dizzly on different... in fact, actually, you guys need to close down, don't I? Right, I'm going to close you guys down now on TikTok. I did forget. I'll be over. I'm going to continue this live stream on YouTube and the Real Raven one on YouTube and the Real Raven one on X. Go and show your support over there, ladies and gentlemen. And if not, I'll be back on tomorrow morning at 10. Right. And I bid you good evening. Are we off? Yeah. Right, we're off. Alas, the US Second Amendment, it's not about guns. It is about guns. But for me, the most important thing about that Second Amendment is the right to form militias, the right to organize and come together in unified with a serious force to be met and to defend the people against the tyrannical government. We have nothing like that in the United Kingdom, guys. Absolutely nothing. And if I can get a, you know, if we as people of the United Kingdom can get the, you know, that legal document, we're good. We sort our own problems ourselves, and I'm all for sorting out my own problems myself. If you'd have been in my house earlier on when we were trying to fit a carpet. Calzin Calaz Info Warrior is saying your royals are demon pedos. Like, I've met Prince Harry, and he didn't really seem like a demon. Although I do think that King Charles is the last, you know, I do think that King Charles and his proximity to go on. Somebody, who am I thinking of? Somebody tell me who I'm thinking of. With the blonde hair. It's not Rolf Harris. Go on. Somebody tell me. Help me out. Jimmy Savile. I think, you know, his proximity to Jimmy Savile is very questionable. You know, and that just seems to be, you know, brushed under the carpet. You know, absolutely brushed under the carpet. Amir the Cricket is saying, I don't know what to tell you, Sean. When the government betrays us, it makes everything super hard. It does. It makes everything super hard. Sony Claire is saying, my husband bought me a barbecue lighter, which doubles up as a taser. I wouldn't know about that. I mean, what do you like? I mean, you could go and get yourself some, go in the field and get yourself a cow or something. Templar Matt is saying, our government only put legal frameworks in place to stop us doing things. They'll never let us have that power unless, exactly, they're not going to, but like what I'm getting at is, what I'm getting at here is, how would the government, how would Keir Starmer avoid that question? You can add it, you can ask that question, and like, it's very difficult for Keir Starmer to avoid that. Right, Keir, can the people of Britain have a legal framework to protect themselves against a tyrannical government? Oh, no. No? Why, are you a tyrant? No, but I might want to be. Very difficult for him to box his way out of that. And I don't think he's smart enough to box his way out of it anyway. Miss Chloe Celeste is saying, book on Mountbatten out next year. Rumours about him for years. And who's the other one as well? Is it Ted Heath? The British Prime Minister? I think it is Ted Heath. Sean, read my comment. And all other people wouldn't leave their homes. I would. Right, okay, hang on. Sean, I know. Sean, read my comment. Are you talking about this comment, Googly? Googly. Sean, read my comment. I know a lot of people wouldn't leave their homes. I would be in that category. I'm trying to find your other comment. Right, is that the comment or something else? John is saying, I've got to be honest, I would love Donald Trump to call our prime minister out on national TV. That won't be brilliant. That I'm going to say that would be brilliant. Honestly, it would. Cal is an info warrior saying Los Angeles Dodgers rule 2025 World Championships. I don't even know what that means, guys. I don't even know what that means. That could mean absolutely anything to me. That to me sounds like a biscuit, a Los Angeles Dodger. And I don't know. Do you have them with tea? Do you dip them in tea? What's a Los Angeles Dodger? Templeman is saying, real men don't ask for permission, even off the government. We just act on what's right. This won't get there. Look what's happened to those people who stand out. I mean, when you're talking about prison sentences of 20 months for shouting at a dog, and then you're away from your kids. You're away from your kids for 20 months. What's going to happen to your kids? Googly is saying, I can't stand the thought of having guns. If we started selling them publicly like the US, I'm seriously not leaving my home. Guns will ruin the game. I hope uniting with the US doesn't mean guns. Look, when I talk about US Second Amendment, I always say I'm not really in. Right, okay, that's wrong because I would love to have loads of guns in like a mountain cabin somewhere, and I'd give them all names and like little backstories. For the United Kingdom to defend itself, we need to be able to form militias legally and be able to oppose the government. We don't, people don't need guns. Oh, right, okay. Dean Pinder, England has a constitution. Okay, so England does not have a constitution. It doesn't, guys. England doesn't have a constitution. England have a series of documents that make up the English constitution. Now, the problem is those documents are wildly interpreted depending on what agenda you want to push. So whereas in the United States, they have the US Constitution, which is taught in schools. Now, the reason it's taught in schools in the United States is so that nobody can misinterpret that document. Nobody can misinterpret what these words mean. A barrister from this legal firm can't argue that, no, this is what it actually means. It's there. Everybody understands it. And that's the US Constitution. England, we have a series of documents that are not very comprehensive that make up an English constitution, but it's not a document. It's not a constitution. Nowhere, there's no document that says, there's no piece of paper that says Constitution of England or England's constitution. It's a series of documents. Amanda Bullen is saying that they should be teaching our kids self-defense in school. My granddaughters are in classes 6 and 8. I don't know. I've been, I think to some level, I think at some level, yes. But it gets to a point where I've seen little girls doing boxercise, thinking they can fight. And what you don't want to do is you want to avoid conflict as much as, look, guys, and I'll always say this, avoid conflict at all costs. At all costs. Literally, avoid conflict at all costs. If you're in a conflict, win that conflict at all costs. That's kind of my philosophy. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to teach young girls that they're little ninjas, because they're not. And it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a 50-kilo girl, doesn't matter how much Krav Maga you've done. It doesn't matter how much kickboxing you've done. And you can be the You can be the champion of champions with the best champion kicks. If there's a 120-kilo man and he's angry and he's throwing one bombs at you, you're going down, and it's not going to be a good day. So I would avoid conflict, avoid conflict at all cost. But to a certain extent, yes, of course. And Joshua is saying we need to reach out to other alien races to help us defeat the reptilians. Yeah, I mean, why are we having all these wars all over the world, guys? Why are we having all these wars all over the world? Aren't they silly? Aren't these wars silly? We're fighting over resources when up in space we have infinite resources. I think as soon as we can stop having these wars and we can have real space travel and colonies on the moon, colonies on Mars, rotating habitats, solar power, solar panels around the sun. That sort of stuff's gonna be cool. It's gonna be exciting. That's the future I want to head into anyway. Band again, he's saying, my 3 kids, they all did boxing and taekwondo. Okay. Right. Sometimes I don't read the comments, but I'm gonna have to start reading these comments. Amir the Cricket is saying, I'm a kung fu master. You're not beating firearms. Yeah, exactly. I absolutely. What's that movie? Is it a James Bond film where there's this guy and he's swinging this? Not a Indiana Jones. And weren't they fantastic movies? They were fantastic movies. Like there's a guy and he's swinging this sword around. I think they're in Egypt. This guy is swinging the sword around, and what's his name? Indiana Jones. He pulls out his revolver and bang. They were great movies. Slim Yin is saying no woman should be fighting a man. A broken eye socket could ruin your whole day. I don't know what that means. No woman. I don't know what that means. He Bullock is saying here from the US, people can always vote to lose their rights, but it will always take fighting to get them back. Don't civilize yourself into a corner without a gun. Best hopes for Britain. Well, thank you, Mr. He-Block 1. Yeah, I absolutely agree, guys. If you look through the COVID time, we were all going into lockdown and having draconian measures forced on us. Those draconian measures are still in place. Those draconian laws are still there. We really have voted our way into a very peculiar place, where we literally have no way to if the government of the United Kingdom decided to do something really bad to people and they passed it through law, we have no way of defending ourselves. Yes, of course, people would try and defend themselves, but the police would be obliged to follow out those orders, and they would keep saying, we're only following orders. And this is absolutely the problem. Right. Okay. Dean. Okay. Britain does not have a constitution. Okay. I understand. Right. I understand that there are people talking about the the English constitution. There is no piece of paper. We do not have anything that says this is the English constitution and these are your rights. We have a series of, I think 12 documents. Let me Google this. Okay, so key sources for the Constitution. So statute law, the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, the Human Rights Act, the Parliament's Acts, common law, conventions, authoritative works, treaties, and international law. That all makes up the English Constitution. There's nothing that we have like the United States that says these are your rights as a British citizen. We have, a series of documents that make up those rights. So, for example, which one takes precedence over? Is it, for example, if the Human Rights Act conflicts with the Bill of Rights, which one takes, which one takes privilege? Which one comes out on top? If the Bill of Rights conflicts with the Magna Carta, which one comes on top? And this is what I keep talking about. We have no one document, and that's what we need. And I know it's, pedantic, and I know it's, Sean's going on about his legal documents again. But realistically, guys, without that, we have nothing. With that, we have a fighting chance. And I'm all about fighting chances, guys. I'm all about fighting chances. Stephen is saying England does not have a codified constitution, but rather than an uncodified one. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and the problem with all these separate documents, you can cherry pick, you can cherry pick which one you want. All right. You can cherry pick which one you want. I tagged you in something on TikTok about the SAS are suing the UK government. Yeah, so it's not the SAS, it's the SAS Association group or something. SAS Association group, or I think, or something. Basically, all the ex-special forces guys, they get out in this group. They're the ones who are potentially suing the government, and I think that, that's absolutely unheard of, right? That is absolutely unheard of. And these guys will have a lot of dirt on the government. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now. I've still got tidying to do in the house. We've been laying carpets. We've had electricians in. We've had all sorts of stuff done. Guys, listen, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. I just want to let you guys know that Marco Rubio, I don't know if you guys are just joining for the first time, but what I was talking about today is the United States takeover of the United Kingdom. It's an inevitability now. It's an inevitability. In the United States, Marco, excuse me, I think I'm going to sneeze. Nope. So in the United States, Marco Rubio, the new United States Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has just dropped the new swizzle, guys. It is the official position of the United States government that uncontrolled mass migration is an existential threat to Western civilization itself. Ultimately, we are going down this path right now, guys. Okay, we're going down this subverter path. We're going down this United States path, and I think we're going to be going down the Antarctica path as well by I think we're going to be going down the Antarctica path 2050 pretty soon. Pretty soon that's happening. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down now. Make sure you've liked, followed, subscribed, all those things that help me out, guys. I really do appreciate that. And I will see... Oh, hang on a minute. Have you ever watched Lord of the Kids? No, I've not. Is that a real thing? Is that a real thing? Because my friend sent me a little an AI thing. And it was like Lord of the Rings, but all the characters were Arnold Schwarzenegger. Right, anyway, guys, listen, I am going to turn this off now. I'll be back on tomorrow morning at 10, and I'll see you guys later.